So I'm Richard Jimmerson. I've been with the Internet Society for just over a year now. I came to the Internet Society from the American Registry for Internet Numbers, where I was for 13 years. I was most recently CIO there. And I was very interested in working on programs to help people with deployment of IPv6, DNSSEC, and new standards and technologies. However, in the registry system where I was and in some other places where I was working, the focus was very much on the why. Why we have to support open standards, why we have to deploy IPv6, why we have to deploy DNSSEC and other things, but not so much on the how. And I was very interested in helping out with the how resource. And I was very excited to find out sometime last year that the Internet Society was starting a new program to help out people with their deployments with V6 and DNSSEC. So I was able to come over here, get on board, and work with the team to get something like that started. We did have a meeting with chapters around the fourth quarter of last year, the end of last year, where we introduced the program that we were working on that was to be launched. So some of you may have heard about it already, and it was called the DO Hub at the time, the Deployment and Operationalization Hub. And it was decided right after we got off the call pretty much with the chapters and some other folks that we were talking to about the program. And said, you know what, the Deployment and Operationalization Hub is just not going to work as a name. And in fact, most people can't say operationalization. So they asked us to change the name to something else. And what we did is we created a new name, and it's the Internet Society Deploy 360 program. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So you may have heard about it before, but in January we launched this as the Deploy 360 program. So how do we advance? There we go. Awesome. So the reason why we came together as the Internet Society to work on a program like this is that there's a challenge when it comes to deploying new standards and technologies for a lot of companies out there. There are some companies that aren't as challenged. If you're a very large company and you have the resources, you have a large staff of engineering minds and administrators, and you want to deploy IPv6 or DNSSEC, you can spend the time necessary to study and investigate that inside your own organization to see how it will or won't work for your customers, and then safely go out and deploy that. Other companies don't have the resources to put behind that. And the challenge that we found is that when the IETF comes together and they create protocols based on open standards, they issue a standards RFC, they get that published, and then it's up to the operators out on the internet and other organizations to come in, find those RFCs, and go out and deploy those new standards and technologies. We found with IPv6 and DNSSEC that wasn't going very well. Not only for that reason, there were some other reasons that people hadn't moved yet. But we were met with this challenge that when someone was going to investigate how to deploy IPv6 for the first time or DNSSEC, they would often go to a search engine and they would type in learn IPv6 or something like that. And when they did that, they would get millions of answers. And oftentimes on the first, second page of the answers that they received, the resources that they saw weren't helpful. Either they were outdated, dating back to 1999, 2000, or they just really weren't good resources for them. So what we set out to do is, as the Internet Society, is to create a resource that would help people with their deployment of V6 and DNSSEC without having to rely on information they're not sure about on the net. Also, people seeking implementation of those protocols are confused by lack of clear, concise deployment information. That's the type of feedback that we were getting from people. Many of you on the call probably are perfectly fine with picking up an RFC and going out and implementing something and deploying something based on the standard text that you can see in the RFC, but a lot of organizations out there just aren't comfortable doing that. So what we've done is we've set out to provide a hands-on information resource about IPv6, DNSSEC, and other new technologies to help people with their real-world deployments. And the way that we do that is we leverage the Internet Society's relationship with first adopter organizations to work with them to create content that others that are going to follow them can use to quickly deploy. It doesn't replace the need for a consultant, perhaps. It doesn't replace the need for other types of training, but it acts as a very good source, first source of information for people to get themselves started and kind of weed out all of that confusion that they might have. So the way that we're reaching out to people and we're helping them with their deployments is through this Deploy 360 program. There are 4 pillars to the program that we're working on, and we just launched this thing in January of this year. One of them, of course, is the web portal, where we have technical documents, audience-specific information for people, where they can come in and if they're a web hosting company, find some information that might be helpful to them versus a small enterprise organization. And we're posting all of this information out to this web portal. Also, we're reaching out very aggressively over social media. We found that a lot of people that we're communicating with choose to get their information that way, and they actually find things easier that way. So of course we're on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and in many other places. And we're starting to actually create some video content, some multimedia content, put that out on YouTube too, and we're going to do more with that. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're reaching out at speaking engagements. We're going to places where we know people need information about these things, and we're making sure that they know about the program that we're building here at the Internet Society. We engage them, we introduce them to what we're doing, and we try to gain some more momentum behind the deployment topic. We've been to places like the Consumer Electronics Show, where we've reached out to consumer electronic vendors, and they let us on the agenda there to talk about that. V6 summits, interops, different operator groups, and different things like that. We also have the Internet On conference series, where we're doing 4 conferences as the Internet Society per year, where we reach out to people and we bring with us first adopters, people who have already deployed these standards and technologies, and we deliver information directly to an audience that needs information about how to get this stuff done. And that'll often be by featuring case studies or doing expert sessions, doing hands-on sessions, and those types of things. And the way we'll deliver these things is with an anchor event. So we won't try to go and stand up an Internet Society meeting all by itself and encourage people to come. We'll go find an event that's already well established, and we'll talk to them about co-locating with the Internet Society, an ION event, and we'll work with them to do that. Some examples coming up of who we're working with. We're working with Interop in India. We're working with Usenix Lisa in the USA coming up here soon, and there's some other events that we're building. So the team here at the Internet Society, we have 3 people working on the program, although these folks are distributed across other areas of work inside the Internet Society. They don't only work on the Deploy 360 program, they work on other things too. I work on the Deploy 360 program, so does Dan York. He manages all of our content for the program, and Megan Cruz manages all of our outreach here internally at the Internet Society. So a little bit about what we've seen since January of this year with the program. We've put over 300 pieces of content on the site. A bit about the content. The content is not only things that we create ourselves, working with our partners to put up on the site. What we're also doing is we're going out and we're finding the best content that we can find that's available online to fill information gaps that we have on the site, and we're featuring other people's content. So we're actually vetting it. We're going out and making sure it wasn't something that was written in 1999 about IPv6 with sub-TLAs, NLAs, SLAs, and those types of things in there that aren't going to be helpful to people, but that it's actually current, relevant information to help people with their deployments. So we're featuring those pieces, and we're filling the gaps, information gaps, by creating our own content right here at the Internet Society or with our partners, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. We've had just over 70,000 page views since we launched in January of this year. It's a brand new initiative. We're happy about that number, but we want it to go up. It's just over 43,000 site visits and 34,000 unique visitors. And those of you who are familiar with Google Analytics, you probably know that's where we're grabbing this information from. A unique visitor might be the same person several different times, just on different devices that they're using. We've been developing strong interactions across Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and we've been soliciting volunteer support at the site, and we've had over 30 people volunteer to help us with our content, so that's very exciting. And again, we've got some ION events coming up, and on the site we have some of the confirmed ones already listed out there. Now, one of the things that we've been doing over the past 4 or 5 months as we've launched this program is doing our best not to pretend like we know what people need, because we really don't. It's up to the people who are consuming this product that need the information. I mean, these aren't folks that go to every IETF meeting or have even ever been to an operator group meeting. These are folks inside enterprise organizations, inside vendor spaces that aren't the larger ones, content companies, who really don't have access to those meetings or haven't been exposed to that, yet they need to deploy these standards and technologies. We've been working hard to reach out to them through social media, over the web portal, at meetings that we go to where they have shown up, and we've asked them questions about what they need for DNSSEC and IPv6 deployment. And they've given us all of that feedback. Now, what we've done with that feedback is we've compiled it into content roadmaps for the Deploy 360 program. And we've split the content that people say they need into 2 different categories in those roadmap documents. Requirements, things that we feel must be added to the site for that section to be complete so that people can meet their education goals, and enhancements, things that would be very helpful to the community if we deliver the content in a different way other than just text. And we're going to be working on both of those. And again, we curate the content. If it's already there, we don't want to recreate it. If something great is already there and it's an open, free and open resource that we can point to and we can get agreement with someone on, we'll do that. Otherwise, we're going to go out and we're going to create it ourselves with our partners and volunteers. And again, just before I get into the next steps, something I haven't described yet is we're going to be translating all of this content too into other languages. Since we are the Internet Society, we do need to pay attention to other people want to consume this content other than just in English. Most of the content will be created in English, but we're going to be translating it into other languages. So our next steps going forward from where we are right now, we have those roadmap documents published. You can find them on the website. If you go there and you type in roadmap in the search field there for Deploy 360, it should pop right up for you. So we're working off of those roadmap documents and we're engaging people out in the industry to help us actually create this content so that we can get it published out to the web as quickly as possible. And I'm going to share a timeline with you here in a moment. We're looking to move into doing more multimedia rich content to accommodate different learning styles. We're finding through the feedback that people are giving us that a text document's just not going to do it for them sometimes. They want to see a video. They want to see somebody talking about what they've done. They want to see those types of things. So we're going to be working to try to put more content out that way. Deploy 360 is not just about IPv6 and DNSSEC, however. Today, those are the 2 topics that we're covering. We really want this to be a platform from the Internet Society to help people with deployment-related information for standards and technologies. We started with IPv6 and DNSSEC, but we want to add new topics to this platform going forward into the future. A logical next topic is secure routing, but there are both some political discussions going on right now about how that might be done, and also big operators are talking about if it actually scales for them, some of the solutions that are on the table right now. We're waiting for some of those conversations to settle themselves out, and then we'll be adding that as a topic as well. And moving forward here, I think that we have a timeline. There we go. So if you look at the roadmap documents that we have on the site, it is our intent by the end of this year, end of 2012, to have all of the requirements completed and actually published to the site, either through curation or by creating the content ourselves with partners. And moving forward beyond that, for at least the topics of IPv6 and DNSSEC, is to get all of those enhancements done, to use the text materials that we have there as the base and actually create some multimedia content to help people get their information about deployment. We're also starting around the 3rd, 4th quarter of this year translating some of those text documents that we have into other languages. And at the end of this year, as we're closing down the V6 and DNSSEC topics, at least the initial stages of it, we're going to be adding new topics to the program. So that's a brief introduction to the program. I'm sure that you guys probably have some questions about it, and I'm happy to answer them for you.